All right. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Allison Eckhart. I'm with the Communications Office with Office of Science in DOE. I wanted to welcome you to today's webinar on research opportunities in high energy physics. Before we begin today, I want to run through the logistics for this webinar. This meeting is being recorded, and the recording will be posted on the Office of Science's High Energy Physics Funding Opportunities webpage. There are closed captionings available. There's a button at the bottom of your screen that you can press for those captionings. After the presentation, there will be a question and answer session. Please put your questions into the Q&A box. And yeah, I think that's it. With that, I'd like to introduce Dr. Bill Kilgore, Program Manager with the High Energy Physics Program.
Right, thank you. So, yes, I'll be discussing, I don't know if Allison mentioned it, if you have quick questions, you can enter in the chat and people will try to answer, Ovid and Brian will try to answer as we go along. But you can also save a question for the Q&A and we'll try to address that at the end of the presentation. So yes, I'm discussing the informally known as the HEP Comparative Review for fiscal year 2023. DEFOA 0002832. Here's a nice image of the document. So I'm going to give a basic overview of the FOA because we'll have people applying for the first time. But I'm also going to there's a number of changes that have been implemented for this year, and I will spend a fair bit of time on that as well. And so I'm not going to have time to cover everything, but if there's some burning issue, please ask a question about it and I'll try to get to it and we'll try to respond. So the overview of the grant process in DOE is that first we develop a solicitation, and this is what I spent some of my summer and fall doing, is getting it ready and sending it through the approval chain within the Department of Energy. And then finally we published the funding opportunity, which we did back in October. And we solicit proposals and for the proposals to come in. Once we get those, we send them out for review. There may be multiple stages. And in fact, as I'll discuss, we have what we call a mail-in review period. Of course, nothing is done by mail. It's just done through our portfolio management system, PAMS. And then we actually have an in-person or Zoom review panels that do a meta review of all the proposals that have come in, broken up by research area. And then based on the recommendations from those panels, we recommend some proposals for awards. And then there's the usual ensuing negotiations with the Department of Energy and your university to get that award to you. So the University HEP Comparative Reviews have been in place since 2012. So this is the 12th round of that process. Each HEP subprogram at the national laboratories is also reviewed every 3 to 5 years, a little longer with COVID since we extended some of those. This process came about as a recommendation from HEPAP subpanel called the Committee of Visitors, which is a subpanel that reviews the operations of the agencies. There was a strong recommendation back in 2010. It took until a couple of years for HEP to implement a comparative review. And so the first one was in 2012. Subsequent committees of visitors, COVs, have recommended continuation of the process in 2013, 16, and in 2020. The overall goal of a comparative review program is to improve the overall quality and efficacy of the HEP research program by identifying the best proposals with the highest scientific impact and potential, so that we are not just funding the people we know, but really examining what the best proposals being submitted, and then it ensures that we change with the field instead of getting stagnant and doing what we've done before. So, as I say, this is FOA 2832. Covers the 6 core HEP research programs. The energy, intensity, and cosmic frontiers, as well as HEP theory, accelerator science and technology R&D, and detector R&D. A letter of intent, which is not mandatory nor binding, but strongly encouraged, is due by November 16th of this year. We encourage that so that we can plan for who we have to review and what topics we have to review, and help us select the correct review pool of reviewers to cover all of that material. The proposal deadline is December 21st, 2022, and the review process will extend from January to March of 2023. Okay, PIs and university-sponsored research offices should all read the FOA carefully and comply with all requirements before submitting a proposal. In addition to the funding opportunity announcement, we have an FAQ available to address a wide variety of topics, and they're both available. The FAQ will be, I don't think it's been posted yet, but it will be up within the next day or so, right next to the FOA under the, on the funding opportunity site, both on HEP and the overall grants OSTI site for the Office of Science. So I want to talk about the deadlines on this FOA. So the letters of intent, as I say, are due November 16th, 2022 at 5 p.m. These are to be submitted through PAMS by the principal investigator of the proposal. And the reason for the 5 p.m. cutoff is that since they're going through PAMS, the PAMS help desk turns off at 5 p.m. And so you can't get help after 5, and so you should get your submission in before 5, so that if you have a problem, you can immediately contact the PAMS help desk and tell them you had problems. A late submission will not be able to find any help. Full proposals are due December 21st, 2022 at 11:59 p.m. This is because proposals are submitted not by the PI, but by the sponsored research or program office of the university through grants.gov. And grants.gov is open 24/7, so we just go to the very end of the day. However, note this date of December 21st. Many program offices are likely to be closed by that late in the year. So contact your office, to talk to your officer, your grant officer, and determine when you can submit a grant and how late you can rely on them submitting the grant for you. So coordinate that, and don't discover too late that they have taken off for holidays. Also to discuss is renewal proposal products. So grants that are up for renewal have to submit something called renewal proposal products, which is basically the last year progress report. We don't ask for a full progress report, that's covered by the project narrative, but we do ask for a list of products, which is publications, patent applications, things of that sort that are produced in the course of research. So when proposals are submitted to grants.gov, they then get transferred to DOE, and a person in Grants and Contracts office assigns them to program managers. And it's this assignment of the proposal that generates the request for renewal proposal products. And once that goes out to the PI, you nominally have a week to respond. Now, DOE offices, like university offices, are thinly populated at the end of the year, so this may not happen immediately. It may or may not. I don't know their schedules. So the request may be delayed. It may not come the same day that you submit your proposal. Renewal proposals cannot be sent out for review until the renewal proposal products have been submitted. Now, nothing good or bad will happen if you miss this deadline or are late responding with your RPP. But again, nothing will happen. It will not go out for review. So try to submit by no later than January 6th. That would be best. You will certainly avoid delaying the review of your proposal if you get it in by then. If for some reason you cannot make it at that time, please get it in as quickly as possible after that date. So key items to keep in mind is that proposed research will review best if it is closely aligned with the HEP mission, its program, and most importantly, the P5 strategy. We are still operating under the 2014 P5 strategy because the 2023 P5 committee has not yet convened. They will be announced at an upcoming HEPAP meeting. Investigators in experimental HEP research frontiers, energy, intensity, and cosmic, will review best if they are closely integrated into HEP-supported experimental collaborations and have key roles and responsibilities on those experiments and within those collaborations. Generic research that is not carried out as part of a HEP experimental collaboration should be directed to either the theory or the detector R&D programs as appropriate. Any other experimental research should be either, as I say, into the aligned with the P5 strategy and HEP-supported experiments or detector R&D. Read the FOA carefully and follow the requirements on content, on the length of various parts of the submission, etc. Some of these FOA requirements are set from outside of the HEP office, and we have little to no flexibility in their enforcement. And non-compliant proposals that are submitted will not be reviewed. And so in recent years, about 5% of incoming proposals are declined without review. And most often the mistakes are page limits, separate budget sheets, which I'll discuss. If you have a multi-thrust application, we want you to not only have a detailed overall budget, but detailed budgets by task. I'll say more about that later. Data management plans, when they were first introduced, were a big cause of declinations. Not so much anymore, though on occasion, including personally identifiable information. Again, when that became introduced as an absolute requirement that they could not have PII, it's triggered a few declinations, not so much anymore. There will be a number of changes in this year's FOA, which I will discuss, and be very wary of those, and try to make sure you follow all the instructions and handle them correctly. And again, even with all this, most of the declinations occur for new proposals. So people who are inexperienced PIs, but a few years ago when various requirements were introduced, even experienced PIs were making mistakes and getting a declination. So read carefully, ask if you're a new proposal, ask an experienced PI for help, and things, as I say, it's still only a small percentage of the total that are submitted. Okay, and be sure to work with your sponsored research office. They can help you and do a cross-checking. They can't contribute to the content with you, but they can work to make the proposal compliant. So take use of them. So talk a bit about aspects of the proposals. Artificial intelligence and machine learning is a priority with the administration in the US Congress. It is not one of the 6 research programs that are participating in the comparative review, but it does make up an aspect of the research from all of those various research programs. So the development and implementation of machine learning or deep learning tools, techniques, and algorithms is rapidly becoming part of many experimental analyses and an increasing amount of theoretical work. There's usually 2 categories of AI/ML-based proposal narratives. Those of developers, where the PIs are explicitly leading efforts to develop ML-based tools and algorithms in order to enhance their research. And then there's the end user, where they take a developed package and apply it in perhaps a new and creative way to improve an analysis. As far as reviews go, developers usually draw better reviews, though a particularly innovative application of existing methods can be very impactful and draw good reviews as well. This year's FOA encourages investigators to identify their research group's AI/ML efforts in the proposal narrative as they would for other key areas of expertise. So if you're a heavy user of machine learning or artificial intelligence, don't keep it a secret. Be sure and call it out and tell us about it. And especially if you're doing development work, be sure and call that out. Consider adding a dedicated section to your narrative to describe the efforts, the importance of completing and their importance to completing the project, explain the methods used, their impact, identify the personnel and the research and the level of effort involved, whether it's the PI or whether it's students and postdocs. Give us a full explanation of how you will be implementing this. Another hot topic based on a administrative priority is quantum information science. In the past, this has been funded almost exclusively through our dedicated quantized FOAs. And for research that has been funded through quantized program, our position is that it should remain associated with the quantized program and should not be included in a comparative review proposal. Renewal proposals for the quantized awards should be submitted through what we call the general call, which is this FOA 2844. New research scope in QIS can be included in proposals to the comparative review in the HEP theory and detector R&D program areas. This should be quantum information science to extend the reach of HEP theory or the development of QIS-derived techniques for HEP experiments and detector development. Okay, and I urge you to contact your program manager. If you think you have a QIS application in one of the other frontiers, or that would be appropriate, or to theory and detector development, contact your program manager before proposing QIS-related research to make sure that we're on the same page and that we understand what is being proposed and that it fits well with the HEP program. I would like to discuss the review criteria. This is what we use to do the basis of our review process and how we make our decisions. There's the scientific and or technical merit of the project, the appropriateness of the proposed method or approach, the competency of the applicant's personnel and adequacy of the proposed resources, reasonableness and appropriateness of the proposed budget, and a new review criteria that is applied to all Office of Science research proposals this year is the quality and efficacy of promoting inclusive and equitable research, or peer plans. Oops, excuse me. I highlight in yellow, if you want to check back on the slides, which will be posted, the parts that have changed. In past funding opportunities or comparative review funding opportunities, we have had a special review criteria for alignment with the 2014 P5 plan. We find that no longer provides much power in distinguishing one proposal from another, as the community is very on board with the P5 plan. And so we've moved that into the appropriateness of method and approach. Last year we had another review criteria regarding mentoring that was HEP specific. It has now been replaced by the SC-wide peer plan. So these are the changes in the review criteria. As I say, this used to be a standalone review criteria, is the alignment with the 2014 P5 plan and overall impact directly on HEP. So that's been incorporated into the overall criteria of appropriateness of method and approach. The new for 2023, the new review criteria is the peer plan. Is proposed promoting, I'll just say peer plan, suitable for the size and complexity of the proposed project and an integral part of the proposed project? To what extent is the peer plan likely to lead to participation of individuals from diverse backgrounds? What aspects are likely to contribute to the goal of creating, maintaining equitable, inclusive, encouraging professional training and development research environment? How does the plan include intentional mentorship, and are associated mentoring resources reasonable and appropriate? For renewal applications, you can discuss the results of past efforts. This is the first time it's been a peer plan, but perhaps mentoring efforts or efforts that you have initiated on your own before it was a review criteria, how they have fared and what perhaps what changes you think will be made. And are there any plans for recruiting additional scientific technical personnel, including new senior staff, students, postdocs, new people into your research group? I'll point to this website for details. And at that website, you'll also find links to frequently asked questions about peer plans, as well as a recorded public webinar that was held on October 17th. So this is, the Office of Science is placing a high priority on it, and it is an important part of our review criteria. Associated with this is a dedicated appendix to the proposal for describing your peer plan. You should describe activities and strategies to promote equity and inclusion as an intrinsic element of advancing scientific excellence. There's suggestions on how, this is all in the FOA itself, so I don't have to read every single word, but it's strategies for enhanced recruitment, strategies for sustaining a positive and professional research environment, training and mentoring. Plans may build upon existing diversity, equity, and accessibility and inclusion efforts at your institution, but they should not just be a restatement of standard institutional policies or broad principles. They should refer to your research group and how you will be implementing it. The complexity and detail of a peer plan is expected to increase with the size of the research team and the number of personnel to be supported. And your plans can have a holistic base, something that applies to the entire research program, especially if you have a large multitask application with specializations for individual tasks. But it should describe how each senior investigator will participate in some aspect of the overall plan. So you can't just have some hook for undergraduate students and that one experiment runs and the others just sit on the sidelines. They need to participate, at least in a mentoring fashion aspect, and engage with the students. There are various strategies for that. Of course, this is all brand new, so there's lots of guidelines, and I urge you to look at the FAQ on that I pointed to on the previous slide to describe how you can go about implementing or describing a successful peer plan. So further guidance on review criteria and policy factors. So the review criteria, as what I say, applicants should address these concepts in their narrative, and reviewers will be judging the proposal on their on how they fit those criteria. In addition, there are policy factors, program policy factors, also published in the FOA, which are not directly addressed by by reviewers, but are considered by program managers and others in making policy or programmatic decisions on proposal support. So I will move on. And discuss a little bit about the comparative review process. As I said, we have what we call the mail-in period, which is just written reviews where reviewers see a certain number of proposals and write about them and rate them. And then we have review panels where we collect all the mail-in reviews and discuss each proposal and its merits and relative merits compared to the other proposals in that research program. So we have panels for each of the three frontiers, for theory, for detector development, and for accelerator science and technology. So a proposal with many thrusts will appear in each of those different review panels. right? It is a comparative review, and that means that some proposals will be rated higher than others, and some proposals, even if they are, good solid work, will not perhaps rise to the level that they can be funded. It depends on our budgets for each year. We do not yet have an appropriation for this year, so our budgets are somewhat uncertain. So we can't say now as to where one would have to fall. But it's it is a comparative review and it is competitive. So look, do your best to put in a proposal that will be compelling in comparison to other, the best you can. So now I want to get to the new elements of this proposal for FY 2023 that have not been seen before. There's a new form called the prosaic name of Research and Related Senior Key Person Profile Expanded. And there is a online, a document that you fill out, one for each what's called senior or key person involved in the proposal. So all faculty members that are on the proposal, so anyone who appears by name in the budget page on the proposal, all others who contribute in substantive, meaningful way to the scientific development or execution of the project, even if unpaid. And this most certainly includes research scientists who in the past have only been described in appendices. Here we actually want them called by name, describe their various roles. Anyone listed as a senior key person must be aware that they are included in the application and must agree to perform the work if the proposal receives an award. You'll note, I'll point out here, and I'll come back to it, at the bottom of this page is a place to attach the biographical sketch for this senior key person, as well as the current and pending support for this senior key person. And every person involved on the proposal will have one of these, not students and postdocs, but the senior people, faculty and research scientists. And this is where the biographical sketches and current and pending will go. They no longer go into appendices at the end of the project, after the project narrative. They will be attached to this document. There are changes to the biosketch. These changes have been implemented a few years ago. You may have already seen them before, but I'll go over this. We require the use of the NSF format in the Science CV system. Either use the Science CV or there is a fillable PDF available from NSF. I will mention that the NSF format is not exactly compatible with the information required by the FOA. We've been hoping for a long time for a dedicated Office of Science flavor of this biosketch, and it is still coming soon, but not here yet. If you find that you cannot fit the information we've asked for into this CV, you may attach pages to the end of it, and there will be no penalty for breaking a page limitation on this. So point out, we used to ask for a collaborator list as part of the biosketch. That is no longer true. I'll say more about the collaborator list. It is now attached to a different part of the proposal. Right, as I say, it is to be attached at that box that I showed here at the bottom of the principal senior key person profile. I'll warn you against the fillable PDFs. I've seen software incompatibilities when trying to merge this into the rest of the document, where a completed biosketch shows up as an empty page, depending on, at least on the government version of Adobe Acrobat. So be wary of that. We know to look for it, but it can cause problems. So and for the long run, I think you should investigate the Science CV website, which you can find a link to in the FOA. Something happened here. Sorry, my pages are lost. Current and pending support is what I wanted to talk about next. It's much the same story. It used to be a dedicated appendix where all the current and pending supports were added. Now it is to be, again, using the NSF format developed within the Science CV system or the fillable PDF available from NSF. And it will be attached to the senior key person profile rather than just collected together in an appendix. We'll point out that all foreign government-sponsored talent recruitment programs must be identified in current and pending support. They are not disqualifying. Don't be afraid of reporting them, but they must be reported. So that is a fairly new requirement that we've been asking for a couple of years. So now, so what kind of, let's see, make sure that let me go on to the collaborator list. And that one page just slipped out of the order. So we used to have this as part of the biosketch. Instead, we now ask that it either be appended, we want it twice. If you submit an LOI, we'd like to see it because that tells us who we should avoid asking to review your proposal when we're planning our review panels. Even better but that would just have to be attached, turned into PDF and attached. Better would be to submit the Excel document just as an attachment to an email to this address, and we will get it, be distributed to the program managers so that they can use it. For the proposal, it is now separate from the biosketches. It's not submitted in an appendix. There is a dedicated place described in detail in the FOA where it is attached to the actual application. Here, this is required. We ask for it in the LOI, but the LOI itself is optional. We require it in the proposal. So attaching it to the letter of intent is not sufficient. We need it as part of the proposal. Your proposal is incomplete without it. This list should include your graduate and postdoctoral advisors and advisees. Be sure your collaborators and co-editors within the last 48 months, a research proposal, and be sure and specify the association. We consider the graduate student advisor-advisee relationship to be a lifetime conflict of interest. Postdoctoral advisor-advisee relationship is not. We consider it more in the vein of collaborator co-editor, and after 4 years, eligible to review one another's proposals. Members of large collaborations should not list every co-author. Do not list the entire author list of Atlas or CMS as people that you are conflicted with, because your proposal will be unreviewable. Only list those whom you actually work closly. This applies even to smaller proposal lists, but white papers and such. If you didn't actually work with all those people, don't list them in the collaborator list. But for each person named, provide this information. There's an Excel template that is available from the Office of Science. The FOA gives the link to that. And now I can go back to what I was supporting is research activities supported. So what do we support? Again, it's efforts that are in direct support of HEP programs, research, R&D, data for experimental design, data taking, analysis-related activities. Sometimes engineering support. Most of that's done through either operations or project, but sometimes within the research program. Theory, simulations, phenomenology, computational studies. We support summer salary. We support students and postdocs. Sometimes research scientists. Again, this is something you might, if it's a new proposal, someone we're not familiar with, you might discuss it with the program manager. And be sure when you propose supporting a research scientist, you explain why it is a research scientist and not a term position like a postdoc that is fulfilling this role. And note that their efforts should be devoted toward research, much more so than, say, operations or project activities. What's not supported is things that belong in the operations or project side of the program, engineering, major items of equipment, things of that sort, and experiments that are not supported by high energy physics. LIGO is wonderful science. It's not an HEP program, and we don't support experimental efforts in LIGO. Similar with heavy ion physics at RIC or the LHC. The experiments are supported within the Office of Nuclear Physics, not High Energy Physics. Okay, so I've spoken a little longer than I hoped, but I will stop there. There's more information. If the right question is asked, I might have a slide for you, but I think I'll turn it over to a Q&A session at this point. So I will stop sharing.
Right. Thank you, Bill. Well, your colleagues have done a really great job of answering questions as they've come into the chat. So we'll just look at the couple that we have here, and if there are any more that you have that you haven't seen answered, please just go ahead and put them into the Q&A. Let's see. So Harold asks, in the collaboration list, oh, that got answered. Never mind. What about Accelerator R&D for EIC?
You need to talk to the program manager. I guess I should mention that Darren Lee joined us as the program manager for the GUARD program just yesterday. He had been a detailee recently, but is now a DOE employee and the program manager. So you should contact Darren, and he would be able to give you details of what could be supported and if things could be supported in the EIC program. It is possible. I don't rule out the possibility, but I don't know the GUARD program well enough to say.
Just to confirm, is 9 pages per senior PI the only cap to the total number of pages in the research narrative for this FOA? In the continuing solicitation, there is a cap of 50 regardless of number of PIs.
The cap, I believe that cap of 50 had to do with consortia or collaborative proposals where you had multiple institutions involved. I think that they wanted to cap that. If I need more details. Why don't you, if we can do this offline, you can contact me or the relevant program manager with a detailed question. But in general, for general research proposals, it's 9 pages per senior investigator, and the term senior investigator is carefully defined within the FOA.
Can national labs submit a proposal, or should they be a sub-recipient with a university as a lead?
Lab proposals cannot be the lead applicant on the proposal. They are eligible for subawards with a university lead. That is the second option there.
Can you give the URL for the Excel sheet that you mentioned?
No, I would have to look it up. It is in the FOA. There is an actual link in the FOA to that Excel sheet, but I don't have the link in front of me. And if you cannot find it, send me an email and I will point it to you. But
thank you. For conflicts of interest in the LOI and proposal, should there be COIs for all members of a multi-person proposal and not just the PI?
Right. If you look at the Excel spreadsheet, it is broken up by we call them PIs informally, but senior investigators. All senior investigators should have a section of that spreadsheet in which they list their conflicts of interest. It's not just the lead PI of the proposal. It's every senior key investigator, in fact, should contribute their section to this spreadsheet.
And are these people used only to determine who is not a potential reviewer? Many of us have a long list of old students, postdocs.
Old students, yes, we should know if you think you have a student that would be still in the field and that we would be using as a reviewer, we should know about it so that we don't try to assign one to your student. Your old postdocs, as I say, it's a 4-year cooling off period. If it's been more than 4 years, we don't consider them to be conflicted in any way. So it's only collaborators and postdocs within 4 years, or graduate students, all of your graduate students.
He clarified, asking about students who are outside of academia.
If they're not in academia, then you probably don't need to list them. I mean, unless you're doing something, if they went to work at Google and you're now working on machine learning, it's possible, unlikely, but it's possible that we would ask them to review the machine learning part if we did not know that they were connected to you. So if they're off in finance or something else where that's very unlikely to be related to a scientific activity in your proposal, then you don't really need to list them. But I know of people working in industry who actually contribute to scientific efforts in various parts of the program. So it's not necessarily that they're completely out of the field, that they're in industry.
In the CNP, how is fraction of effort defined? Calendar time, academic appointment time, 9 months for many, research time?
That's a good question. Oh, it's good. Someone seems to have taken it. Good.
I think he's looking for you to answer it. Yeah, I don't know if he actually answered that question in the chat, but
it doesn't look like
you
a
have
question,
an answer.
Is that a question or is that a statement? It looks like a statement, but
Did you have an answer for the research time question?
Oh no, I think someone else took it. I didn't.
It was marked as answered live, so.
Maybe if I clicked it, I did not mean to. I don't know what happened to that. Do I have an answer to that? I don't. No, I would have to collect my thoughts. Why don't you send me an email with that question and I will try to answer it. And but no, I'm sorry, I don't. I can't come up with a coherent answer at this junction.
An opportunity for non-lab organizations to provide information on their capabilities, expertise that would go on a partnering list and be provided to lab POCs. Is there an opportunity for? Oh,
is there an opportunity?
Kind of a list?
I mean, that's not really within the purview of the funding opportunity. So I don't know of exactly how that's done. I can't answer that question. Sorry.
Okay. Are there any other questions that haven't been answered that the group would like to pose? You can always reach Bill by email. Oh, there's another one. I'd asked about the deadlines for next year because a couple of years ago, the deadline was in August, September.
Right. So August, September is our preferred time frame, but for various reasons within the Office of Science, we were not able to get the FOA out in time for an August submission, and then there were delays within the Office of Science and the DOE approval process that kept us from putting out the FOA until October. We had hoped to have it out by the end of August, and there were just roadblocks that we couldn't do it. So it is always our intent to go with the August-September timeframe, but sometimes bureaucracy intervenes, and we just have to go with what we can. So it will not be before August. I can pretty much assure you that, but you just have to wait and see. We were aiming strongly towards September, and it just didn't happen this year, and that was out of our control.
All right. We do have a hand raised in the audience. Nishant, would you like to? I can unmute you and you can talk to Bill. So, oh, just lowered your hand. Okay. Never mind. All right. Well, like I said, if you do have additional questions or If you need more information, Bill's information is available in the FOA. And Bill, if you want to drop your email into the chat for everybody, you can also do that. Okay. And if there aren't any other questions, I think we can wrap up. All right.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks so much for joining us, and have a great day.